everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy at TV. In case you're not a subscriber yet, please do subscribe. Just press the subscribe button as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we upload our videos. Don't also forget to subscribe and join, follow, like our other social media platforms. Of course, you're seeing it right about now. Don't also forget to share this video across your platforms. Enjoy the video. Back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation now. The first interview starts now. The MPC met yesterday, of course, the last meeting for the year. Joining me right now is Dr. Victor Oboh, the Director of Monetary Policy Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Good morning, Doctor, and good to see you again, and as always.
Good morning, Dr. Nancy.
Dr. Oboh has handed me a doctorate degree on the program. Thank you.
You have all the credentials.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
Let's get started. We're markets disappointed with the decisions yesterday because prior to the meetings, I read, of course, a lot of articles and listened to a few people were like, okay, that the MPC will drop rates because the disinflationary trend has been on for a while. What do you think about that? How is the MPC perhaps the morning after? Because even yesterday, I had to even write it down. The Naira remained flat. I looked at the reactions after those decisions. The Naira remained flat. We saw, I think the NGX was, I think, gained 0.10%, if I'm not mistaken. The first gain in a few weeks since this toss up and down has been happening. So how are you taking in, as a monetary authority, the morning after, or perhaps hours after that decision?
Thank you, Nancy. I think, gradually this conversation is beginning to, have some lessening of stress and tension because the numbers continue to improve as we move.
Stress and tension on your part. I'm not
less stressful.
I don't mean you personally,
and less
perhaps
tense.
on the part of the Cbn.
Even on
well.
the So so far, the feedback has been positive. It has been positive. I have read a couple of articles, which of course, applaud the decision of the MPC and the wisdom of the MPC. And those articles were premised on, similar analysis that were done by the MPC. So in a nutshell, it was on a balance of risk, after those rigorous analysis. I think the best decision that had happened was what took place yesterday.
That's to remain cautious.
To hold, yes, to be cautious.
Okay, why was that? Why was that decision taken? If I need to say, why was that cautiousness mode?
Yes.
Taken? Is it that the underlying models or risk indicators that the MPC is still looking at that convinced the committee to still remain cautious, even though a few people have commented before yesterday that the MPC should bring down the rates further?
Yeah. Now MPC sits on a huge or humongous database that many analysts may not have the privilege to see. Nancy, you are aware of the rigorous process that leads to an MPC meeting. And I tell you, as this MPC ended yesterday, the preparation for February MPC commences immediately. Yes. That is how robust the process is. So it's not MPC coming to meet for one day to brainstorm. No. So the preparatory process begins immediately. So it's back to back. So the point I'm trying to make is that the data that was available between the last MPC and now all point to the need to hold at this point. Now, if you look at the trajectory of inflation, deceleration, yeah, we've made some good progress, quite commendable. And I'm happy that the economy itself, the society, the people are commending the relative stability or the sustained stability that we have enjoyed. But the fact that the governor mentioned yesterday that has been the main issue behind the hold option is the fact that as much as we have, achieved in terms of the downtrend in inflation, 16.02% is still high. It's still high. It's not at a comfortable level. You don't celebrate at that level. So, because of that level, double digit, we need to bring it down. Again, we are looking at our peers. Peers. There are few countries that you see with that kind of inflation rate, and they are comfortable. We're talking about Ghana. Ghana has made 8%. Yeah. Even Egypt has come down to 12.5. In fact, they were around 11 before the spike in October. And I tell you later why it spiked. And we are careful about some of those risks that could crystallize in our own part of the world.
So is it also okay to say that the committee looked at what is happening even globally?
Yes.
That's one. Yeah. Then number two, the lag effect of perhaps previous hikes to be able to take effect.
Yes.
Even though we had a reduction in rate at the last meeting in September, I think we've had 4 times status quo this year, then 1 reduction, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yes. So would I be right to postulate that this is what it is?
Very correct.
Not even really about the deceleration in the rate of inflation that we've seen. And I must say that disinflation is different from deflation, because so that people don't mix it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nancy, you are, how do I classify you now? I'm trying to describe the kind of economist you are. You are a pro-mass economist. So you break it down for people to understand, and that is very, very good.
Thank you.
For policy communication.
Thank you.
So your MPC had to hold. The major consideration again is the fact that since inflation is still at double digit, it wouldn't be appropriate to lose sight of a possible relapse. Again, when you hold, you now allow the effect of the previous hikes to begin to transmit to the real economy. We've seen that in the last 2 or 4 months, beginning from July and September, we saw a huge deceleration. So we saw that the pace of deceleration was high. I think we got 2.11 in July numbers. Then the last one we got about the October numbers, we got about 1.97. So that has been the highest. Those last two months has been the highest, pace of deceleration. Yeah. So that gives us the impetus that there's still more potential of lagged effect. That if we allow time, without necessarily tightening further, we're still going to see more effect on inflation.
Now let's take a look at 2 issues that affects Nigerians, and those 2 issues will bring up 2 questions for you. The first one, I think I even asked the CBN governor yesterday. We can all, at least the government has told us that there's macro stability. From the numbers, we're seeing growth at about 4.23%, inflation decelerating to about 16%. Our foreign reserves at about $46 billion. Dollars, the naira stable, even though it suffered in the last few weeks because of geopolitics. Yes. It's still stable around the 1,400-ish.
Yes.
Now, if Nigerians are seeing these things that monetary policy and fiscal policy is telling us, but yet how do you translate these gains from a monetary authority? How do Nigerians watching us right now get real relief where prices of goods are still high? Because it's double digits, so it's still high. The inflation is still high. Then the second question I will ask you also is around the CRR. The CRR for commercial banks at 45%, and it's been like that for a while. for merchant banks, 16%, 75% on non-TSA public deposits, which was introduced at the last MPC. Is the MPC looking at perhaps risking choking liquidity, at a time when businesses need credit to expand? Because the CRR impacts credit to the private sector. So how do you look at this? On one hand, you are holding at 27%, even though there was a reduction in September. You are maintaining a cautious stance. On another hand, you are still holding that CRR, and banks do not have enough money, to be able to lend.
Thank you. On a balance, there have been substantial consideration for growth in the last two meetings. Remember, in September meeting, the policy rate was lowered by 50 basis points. That was also the meeting at which the CRR for conventional banks, which used to be 50%, was lowered to 45.
Yes. It's still high.
You see? So that gives a lot of headroom for credit. I tell you, between that meeting and now, there was sufficient credit in the banking system. Again, it got to show that we have the data. We see the liquidity in the banking system, which is sufficient enough to be channeled out, to fund real sector economic activities. So the bank, while maintaining a broadly tight stance, also give consideration to growth. I tell you another thing. In the last meeting, you see the adjustment to the corridor. It's also in favor of softening financial conditions. I may not call it outright easing, but financial conditions became softened. Why? The standing lending facility, the upper rate, the rate at which banks will lend from the central bank, has reduced from 29.5% to 27.5%, because it's plus 50 basis points. So when you add MPR plus 50 basis points, it gave you 27.5%, from 29 down to 27.5. That is lowered for banks. So when banks are now borrowing from central bank at that lower rate, we expect that to translate to lower borrowing at the retail end of the market. Number two, the SDF, the standing deposit, the corridor.
Facility.
Yeah, the facility is also widened. That means that it will not be too, profitable, because ab initio, banks were depositing those excess funds at 24.5%. With that adjustment now, it has reduced to 22.5%. So the incentive for banks to dump those liquidity with the central bank overnight is reduced. Again, sending a message to banks that, look, from now henceforth, continue to trade among yourselves and ensure that intermediation role is carried out. So all this is in favor of stimulating growth.
But is the CBN monitoring even how the banks are lending? Because if the CRR now at 45%,
Yes.
And let me also explain to our viewers, the CRR, the cash reserve ratio,
Yes.
in basic terms means like if a bank has 1,000 naira,
Yes.
as it
Deposits.
were, yes, deposit,
Yeah.
that means they keep 450 naira
Yes.
with the bank, with the
Yes.
central bank, and
Yes.
they do have 550 naira to lend to the rest of us. I hope it's well understood. If the bank really does this, and from your own analysis now, is the CBN really monitoring to ensure or to push the banks to lend? Because in the last few weeks, a few banks have released their financials. At least I've spoken about a few of them here on the show. We're seeing high turnovers, high revenues, profit after tax, and all of that, the revenues even in trillions of naira. But yet, credit to the private sector and credits for businesses is still, the space is not opened, as it were, to be able to drive that growth, perhaps for the fiscal aside, even though when there's so much growth too, there could be inflation.
Yes, hit up the economy. Yeah.
Yes, it will hit up you and you guys will be running out of skelter. But there needs to be a balance. So how do you approach this?
So what we do, we are operating a market-based economy where market-based incentives and policies are used rather than the direct control method. We have gone from direct control to indirect control, using policies, using incentives to influence the direction of flow of credit. That's what we are doing. And what I have just mentioned, adjusting the CRR, is an indirect way of telling the banks, look, it could be more profitable for you to channel your credit to some sectors in the economy than just dumping those liquidity at the window of the bank.
Of the bank.
Yes, that is part of it. But on a broad sense, the central bank watches all the rates, the lending rates, because we expect that for monetary policy transmission to be complete and effective, the moment we tweak the policy rate or even all those other parameters, we would expect it to transmit right through the financial market level down to the retail rates.
Okay.
So we watch all that.
Okay. Is there a threshold inflation rate that the MPC is looking at that they could consider an easing? And doctor, I don't want to preempt your answer, but I want to assume you tell me, okay, the data will suggest that. You know, because even the governor yesterday was saying evidence-based, evidence-based. You are saying also data. But is there an inflation rate at which the CBN is looking at that, guys, if we hit this, we could actually say, okay, uhuru.
Nancy, you ask difficult questions. And the simple answer is that the consolation, rather, is that the outlook for inflation looks positive.
Okay.
Again, all things being equal.
All things, because I wanted to also come in there.
Yes.
All things being equal on what? Because you also need the structural side to be okay for inflation to decelerate further.
Thank you very much. So you can see part of the all things being equal is one of the issues you've just mentioned. But coordination, I will assure you, has been excellent between the monetary and fiscal authority. But again, there could be some shocks that may be outside the control, even of the government of Nigeria, external shocks. You get the point. But what the central bank and the monetary policy authority has done, and the governor emphasized it, is about risk profiling. You know, the ability to catalog all the risk that may likely occur or reoccur, put them in different buckets, get their sources, get try to know the level of those risks, whether they are high, moderate, or low, and then beyond that, going to the point of designing a mitigation plan. That if this happens, this is what is likely to be its impact, and this is what the bank is doing to mitigate those risks. So we'll be able to contain those risks. So there are a lot of those risks we are looking at. We are all aware next year is pre-election.
Yes,
year.
I wanted to say that.
So all these issues are already dimensioned.
Pre-election here, there will be a 2026 budget.
Yeah.
Banks recapitalization, 16 banks, Governor told us yesterday, has done, met so far. U.S. Fed decision, also there will be a new chair, I think, sometime next year. And whatever the U.S. Does, it also sends a bit of signals to financial markets. And that could also reflect or even on our debt servicing rate, even as interest rates go down, all of that. So many things to look out
So
for next year.
The good thing the present management is doing, this data-driven, evidence-based that governor talks about, is very deep. It applies to all the decisions that the management of the bank takes. So you just mentioned all this, and these are all the kind of risk factors that we catalog and begin to analyze ahead of this. including scenario analysis. The worst scenario could be that this might happen, and this will be the mitigation measure.
Okay, just as we round up, do you think that the Central Bank of Nigeria's MPC has been so far satisfied? You know, I can imagine how those meetings were being done in the rooms on Monday and Tuesday. And if they did ask themselves, okay, guys, are we satisfied so far with what we've seen from the beginning of this year till now? I know you're involved because your department is, is heavy on the Monetary Policy Committee. Where at this side, is the MPC satisfied so far in terms of the policy transmission that they've taken, policy decisions into policy transmissions that they've taken since the beginning of the year? Is the result commensurate to what they had anticipated? Or perhaps they will say, like Yorubas will say, oh, kudia kato, that still remains small. We never reach there, but guys, you know, I hope you understand my question.
I understand. Nancy, the body language of the MPC is actually not to be a judge in their own case.
Oh, okay.
But they want to hear what Nigerians have
to say. Okay.
But the feedback, I tell you, the feedback now, and you will agree with me, is quite different from where we were even at the beginning of the year.
Okay, because my question is around, you know, as a bank or as MPC, you know, you have your strategies. Okay, this was where inflation was at the beginning of the year. We had inflation rebased, inflation numbers rebased and all of that. We are now in November. Guys, Cardoso asked the chairman of the MPC and governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria with his team of MPC members taking a look at, okay, this was how we started. These were our decisions. Did we really hit the target?
Nancy, the answer is in the affirmative.
Okay.
Inflation was 34.6 in November.
Of last year.
Inflation was 34 point something in January. Inflation has come down to 16%.
So that answers it.
I mean, you just need to take the answer by yourself.
But I will also tell you and the MPC members, you know, the governor, not to rest on their hours.
No.
Because the months ahead.
And that hold is also a signal to say that, look, we are not yet out of the woods. Yes, we've done well, but we are not yet out of the woods.
But you say you're not a judge in your case.
Yeah, you just pronounce us.
No, I didn't say that.
You pronounce
Let Nigerians judge you guys.
You pronounce it.
But anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Oboh, for coming on the program. I don't need to ask you again the outlook because we've looked at that. You know, the outlook
is good
for next year. And the CBN governor.
It looks good.
The CBN governor will be at the Cbn meeting, and we'll get to hear him give us more forward guidance on how next year would look like. Thank you, Dr. Oboh.
Thank you. And I encourage Nigerians to listen to the address by the CBN governor at the Cbn. It usually summarizes the performance of the bank, you know, at the end of the year. And it's such a speech that people should not miss. I don't know, I'm not preempting the speech, but I know usually it's a rich speech that people should look up to.
That's why I said it gives forward guidance, because I know even at the last Cbn speech which he made was where he told the banks in a way that you guys should get ready for recapitalization. And CBN actually came up with that announcement last year, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Oboh.
you, Nancy.
I'll see you again.
Great pleasure.
Thank
always,
you.
all the time.
Thank
you for the great work you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Victor Oboh, Director, Monetary Policy Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be entering another big story. Thank you for making it up to this minute, watching the video. Thank you all. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Like, follow all our other social media platforms where we keep you up to speed with fantastic interviews, as well as markets, personal finance, business, and economy information. This is the best place to be. I'll see you all again in the next video.